betrayal through relationships as well.
Oh,
You can test it by, multiple failed relationships.
That's right. That's right. I mean, sadly, you can't really get them to do a psych test before you have a relationship with them, which is very sad.
So what are some of the telltale things? How would you suss a guy and they're more men than women? Is that right?
Well, that's kind of contentious. We don't really know because this is a fairly new area. There are women that are like that, but it's not so recognisable because they don't have the aggression factor so much as the men. But yes, there are women that are like that, and they do climb the corporate ladder as well. And I have heard of women bosses that are like that. But typically more male than female, that we know of at the moment.
We're speaking with psychologist Sara Clignett from the Reed Clinic about psychopathy, and you work with a lot of business people. So this is for a start, if you accidentally employ one of these people who can get into your business, you could end up with some devilishly bad lawsuits and things, couldn't you? I mean, there have been big corporations, some classic examples of that, without mentioning any names. Recently with CEOs who've preyed on female employees and whatnot, who've cost their company tens of thousands, millions of dollars.
And actually, talking about females, there was a case recently that I've heard of, but I haven't been able to locate it, for a Qantas employee whose boss was a female, and he got a $350,000 payout, apparently. I'm still trying to find out the case of this, but he was a cleaner, he was cleaning the airplane, and she was meticulous, obsessive, bullying. She was supposed to find a Smartie that he hadn't cleaned up, and he couldn't see it, so she grabbed his head, apparently, and pushed it down, nose down into the seat to find this Smartie with his mouth,
Oh dear, that's sort of behaviour that's not going to get you very far, and obviously, is damaging. And how can someone check out a relationship? What are some of the? Well, can you ask questions and sort of suss out people who don't have empathy, who don't have
Well, it's difficult
morals?
because usually it unfolds over a period of time, because you've got to remember that they are very charismatic. These people are very charming. They're very manipulative, and they're pathological liars. And for somebody who's not prepared for that and is not expecting that, when somebody lies directly to your face, you kind of believe them, because there's some sense of, you just can't understand that people could do that. You cannot.
It would also damage someone for further relationships, wouldn't it? If they're a woman who is unlucky enough to be wrapped up by one of these people and conned by one of these people, then they're sort of damaged, aren't they? And they'd be so wary. It'd be really sad, because when you get someone who is nice and normal, it'd be hard for them to then relate to them.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think, Dr. Hare, you're talking about him, and he was saying that it's, there is a perception that you have to be a particular sort of person to be, to succumb to this. But, what he was saying is that everybody can succumb to these people. They're hard to detect, and I think in relationships it unfolds over a period of time, and, the person's really, loves that person, they stay in, they find it hard to believe that this could be happening, and then they go through a whole process until they reach, kind of some sort of clarity. And then, of course, they've got to go through the healing process. And, I think, don't do that on your own.
No.
Have
a bit of a check through the person's background, if you can, although there might be a jaded witness talking to former partners and things, but in some ways it might be worth doing,
Well, yes, but that's the interesting thing, because you find that a lot of them don't actually let their partners meet their friends for quite some time. They isolate them from their friends, so they don't have any idea until they start meeting with friends and, colleagues and what have you. I've had a few cases just recently of women being involved with narcissists, and they keep it very separate, like work separate, so they don't ever get, they don't invite them to the work dues, or, they don't get invited out to, for the nights out. They're kept fairly isolated from it, so they don't get it for a while. They just don't understand, because they're not hearing any kind of reality or, another side to this person. They're only see what they're presented with.
Is there any way to treat people with this, who are psychopaths and narcissists?
It's very hard to treat personality people, particularly with psychopaths and narcissistic personality disorder.
That goes together, does it?
Yeah. Well, psychopaths always have narcissism. Narcissists don't always have psychopathy.
Right. So you can be looking in the mirror all day, but then have empathy towards.
Typically, narcissists are not as aggressive. They don't have that early childhood warnings such as real bullying and pulling the wings off flies or conduct disorder.
Children who hurt animals is always big alarm bells, isn't it? Children who hurt animals, because animals are so helpless, and particularly little puppies and kittens and things. And apparently, if your kids are cruel and torture, those animals, you've got real alarm bells.
Get some help immediately. Good grief. But with personality disorders, it becomes a part of their personality. It's not something like anxiety and depression, which is fairly, easily treated. It's a behaviour. There's strategies we can put into place. There's thought challenging. We can look at emotional stuff. It's an integral part of their personalities. And with narcissism, personality, and psychopathy, they don't accept any responsibility for their behaviour. So that the likelihood of them actually coming to therapy is zilch.
Everyone else is wrong. They're right.
That's right. It's everybody else's. They project their pathology onto everybody else.
So they've got this great confidence and self-belief. So in a lot of ways, they're very strong from the perspective of being a hard-nosed boss or someone who'll make the tough decision.
There's no guilt, there's remorse, there's no accepting responsibility. And if I've treated couples in the past where one of them's been
like that,
and basically just blaming the partner for everything, and that partner ends up with this huge sense of responsibility. He's trying to fix things, and they either toe the proverbial line or it's pretty much finished.
Dr. Hare's latest book is called Without Conscience, The Disturbing World of Psychopaths Amongst Us. He reckons about 1 in 100 from the research, 1 in 100. That's a pretty high ratio, isn't it?
And it's very huge. They're actually putting out, there's an article in print called Corporate Psychopath, where they've actually researched 103 of these top-level psychopaths, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that says. That'll be very interesting.
It's just amazing, isn't it? It just... gosh, it's so hard to combat. You've just got to be vigilant. And how do you to bring these people to task? If they're doing these things that are really hurtful to you or your colleagues or whatever, how do we shine a light on it? Do you diarise what they do?
And document everything. Document it all. But things like the subtle behaviours that they do, like ignoring you in the corridor.
Yeah, like that woman you treated who he would come in and say hi to every member of the staff bar her.
Yeah, but that in itself is not seen as as something that powers that be would consider as bullying. So you need to document a full history.
I don't know. I think I'd see that as very abnormal behaviour.
But if you look at HR,
but you do it for every day. Saying do it for every day for a year, and then you've got a very strong case, sort of thing.
So document it. The other thing, I read an interesting.
Should you let them know that you're writing this down, or?
Oh no. Well, you can do. It doesn't really matter either way. But I think I read this interesting article called Shark Attack. There was no author, anonymous, but it said it was a metaphor. But it says, "Don't bleed.
Don't be a victim," sort of thing.
Yeah. Don't react. Try not to react. And let them know that you're onto their case in a very assertive but non-reactionary way, and be quite firm with your boundaries. In the situation where I've been in the past, in a situation where I've had to work for somebody, and that was the best form of defence, was not to react to this person.
Knowledge is power, isn't it? Knowing that these people are there, knowing that these people are out there, and there's a few of them, is really, really useful, because then you can understand how they can do these terrible things.
But also talking about it with your colleagues, right? Because then you can all form a defence and all try to support one another.